Annette with Annette's Astrology Corner, and this is your energetic reading for Tuesday, March 29th. And today, okay, so this week I'm going to throw a bunch of information at you guys because this is one power-packed week full of crazy, stupid, mutable energy. So, Venus, which is in Pisces, is in exact opposition with the North Node that's going to be in Virgo, which means Pisces and Virgo are opposites. But more importantly, what I think this has a lot to do with is the relationships that we have moving forward. Now, relationships don't just mean companions, although it does for many of you. Relationships have to do with the relationship that we have with ourselves, the companionships that we develop in life, the work relationships that we pour and emotionally invest a lot of ourselves into. This is the commitments that we develop in those areas. I know that I have had many relationships, external relationships, that have meant a great deal to me that don't have anything to do with like a physical commitment to them. It has everything to do with an emotional investment. I value these people. So you're going to be looking a lot at the people that you value. This is going to be whether or not they're coming into your future or not. If not, many of you are going to start to feel the opposition in keeping these people in your life. If you're not already, many of you are having a lot of signals of the people that you're going to be moving forward with and the people that you're not. So I want to talk about this because an exact opposition is a point. Okay, first of all, we're still having that mutable T-square. And then we are having this energy, this direct opposition having to do with our North Node in mutable energy as well. So what this suggests to me is that there is a need for adaptability in relationships of all kinds. There's a need that you guys need to somehow meet in the middle. There's a point of contention. There's a point that there's a critical detail that I think needs to be evaluated and in all aspects. Now, I do want to go through each sign very, very briefly. I don't have time to go into all of these energies because basically this whole week is full of nothing but extremes. But I do want to just run through them super quick to give you guys an idea of how this is going to affect your sun sign, moon sign, rising sign type area. But so I do want to talk briefly about what this can mean. So the positive vibration of this is Venus and the North Node are in exact opposition. The key to getting what you want in a relationship, partnership, or union is going to be in this energy. I think many of you are going to have revelations. Saturn is going to bring the realism and take out the idealism of relationships in this energy. More importantly, you guys, this is not like a point of like a square or a quincunx, which usually indicate to me endings or, there's an exact opposition where they're never going to meet in the middle. Those are just I don't like looking at squares or quincunxes especially. I like opposition because that is a meeting of the minds. That's a point of pros and cons. It's meeting in the middle of those. And there's a pearls in both, discussing both a pro and con and meeting in the middle, because that's a point where two minds in opposition can somehow at some point develop some sort of relationship where I don't believe you have to lose the relationship completely. You may have to reassess it. You may have to reevaluate your positions. You may have to reflect a little, but it's definitely not a point of just opposition ending. I think attention to details will help you find the middle ground and open up a positive lines of communication. I love this. I feel this is that point where you start to actually discuss details. You're not just, getting together with people and aligning with people and you're just looking at the rosy side and avoiding the elephant in the room. No way. This energy, I think for many of us, is about acknowledging the elephant in the room and then discussing it, and in a very diplomatic way. I really like this energy. I feel it feels very positive to me anyway. So it's important to consider the past as a learning tool, but not to define the future by aligning with the past. Look, even if we're discussing past issues of relationships, that there's a point, there's still some vulnerability, there's still a feeling, when you have Venus in Pisces, there's still a feeling of suffering a little bit, something that you need to acknowledge, a vulnerability. I still think it's important to bring it up, but not fester, not reside in that energy. It's just, let's get it out and let's acknowledge the wound I still kind of have, maybe a little bit. Discussing what you are emotional about, what your wants are on a very, very simplistic level, will help you define your ego's needs and wants to stay in the relationship. Look, the bottom line at the end of the day, what do I get out of this? What's in it for me? Now, I know that seems very ego-based, but let's face it. All of us invest in things to get something out of it. Some of it is that selfless desire to help people, but we get something out of that. No matter how selfless it is, we get a feeling of, we feel good helping somebody. So there's something you're getting out of everything, and you need to assess what it is that you want to get out of everything, out of a relationship, out of these unions that you're forming, out of a companionship of any sort. You need to start to decipher, because who we're attracting reflects upon it's our mirror that we're looking at ourselves. So we need to really evaluate what our ego desires, because we want to attract what our ego needs in order to develop a mental strength and endurance, and we need to fill our buckets up and keep us, full. I just want to feel full all the time instead of feeling empty, because we're trying to pour a lot of energy into relationships that can never really follow through in the end. So for those suffering in relationships where one of you are refusing to embrace the reality of your situation, you may not be considering a healthy option. So sometimes a third-party perspective is exactly what it takes to define the problem. So I believe that many of you are looking externally to resolve something. Some of you may not be able to talk with a partner. I feel like this energy has a lot to do with wise people who have been through things. So if you know somebody in your life is a wonderful source of wisdom, maybe somebody who's been in relationships for a really long time, you want to know what they got that you can't seem to get a hold of, or there's some sort of perspective that somebody else has, a belief system that has helped them in the same situation that you're in. I definitely believe that it's really good to start establishing relationships with people who have the experience and the knowledge and the ability to get you closer to your goals. Now, negative in this energy, some of you are still living in the past, and you not only are you living in the past, you keep reliving the past over and over again mentally. Some of you may not even have a relationship. You're just living in the past pain constantly over and over again. This is we're at the point of letting go and releasing us from that kind of suffering. But we do still need to acknowledge that some of us are still caught. We're kind of in that limbo land. So reflection is a valuable tool, but wallowing in past painful memories is not. So yes, it's important to discuss the elephant in the room, but it's not important. We only want to discuss that if it's a tool that we can use to move past. We got to move past it. So for some of us, we may have never said, when you did this, it made me feel this way. For many of us, we've been very scared to bring up subjects. I think it's important to bring them up, but definitely not point fingers and said, well, you made me feel this way. And this, you guys, this is a relationship with anybody, a significant person, a father, a mother, anybody that you may have had a secret resentment, or you may have stopped feelings of pain. It's time to get it out. It's time to hold people accountable, because when you unleash it, when you let it out of you, that's when you can let it go. Wallowing in a poor coping method makes you a victim over and over again, but a survivor is the person that is in control of their own destiny, and they don't look back. They don't keep reliving. It's just part of their past. It's part of the what you would add as life experience, but it's definitely does not define your ego. So I think many of you need to understand that the past is definitely a learning tool, but it doesn't define you. And I think that many of you wallow because you would rather wallow and you would rather stay stuck than deal with the fact that we're at that point where we kind of got to deal with our external environment. So a Saturn retrograde is going to help you define where you lose control. I believe if some of you are feeling that you don't have control over your life, or that it just feels overwhelming right now, this mutable T-square, you're indecisive, you're wavering, you made a decision, but now you want to take it back, you just don't know. Like, understand that wavering is what it's doing is it's bending our subconscious back and forth. And when it's bending it like that, it's letting out it's releasing a little bit of negative energy. So as we're going through this wavering back and forth, what we're doing is we're pro and conning it constantly in our head. It's just a pro and a con and a pro and a con. As we do this enough, it starts to release some of that icky energy that's just repressed energy. And that's okay, because we want all this stuff gone. That's what this mutable T-square is all about, is releasing us from this energy that's just it, and we need to be attending to this. So ascension is a process of moving away from what no longer will progress us forward. So there's no avoiding it. We have to have these talks. They're suppressing progress. So although these talks don't feel good and they're vulnerable and it seems at times where you're having a lot of discussions that seem to be very ego oriented either way, believe me when I say that this is probably the energy to be having these discussions in, because there's revelations in this energy that really do need to be discussed. So I think you need to identify where you lose power in this energy. I think this is the energy that's going to start bringing all of that forward, especially, I think, in the relationships that we more importantly have with ourselves. I think this is really that point of we're just testing where our personal power really, really, really is at. So I want to run through this really quick. Aries, I believe that for you are going to be doing, this is going to be something that I think is more of it at an unconscious level. I do believe that what you're trying to do is face some of your demons. You're trying to take a look at this. The opposition is balance for you. How do you remain in balance when you feel vulnerable, or when you feel like you've been suppressed, or when there's some feeling of emotional backup? I believe with you it's about balance. Taurus, I definitely believe but because this is your ruler, I definitely believe that this has to do with what you're envisioning for your future. This is going to have a lot to do with the way that you seek pleasure, more importantly. I believe it also has to do with the risk that you're taking right now, how much pleasure you're associating with taking a risk. So if some of you are fearing taking a risk, then some of you are going to have the opposition of wanting to fall back into the Pisces mindset of escaping it all and not and avoiding your responsibilities. Some of you are looking at taking the risk as a hope for your future. I believe what you're going to try to do is then develop some powerful routines to help support that. The opposition is that Pisces, this is the real world, and you have this dream and this hope and this desire to move forward. And I just believe it's just that again, we're on a balanced teeter-totter right now. We're balancing Pisces energy and Virgo energy, beautiful Pisces dreamy energy, along with reality and duty and responsibility. Gemini, I believe that this has to do with your career, life, path, destiny right now. You're really reevaluating, you're assessing where it's going, the direction of your life. And it has to do a lot with the fact, how do you balance between my duties, my responsibilities, my family, my obligations, how do I pursue that and still maintain the balance with my career, life path, destiny? I believe many of you are also shaking up some mindsets that you've had that go way back to childhood. As you're developing this, as you're, bending your piece of clay or your wood or your structure or whatever, as you're bending it, you're releasing some of this energy, this self-doubt that you've had for quite some time. Taking the initiative and move forward toward a dream, that's very Pisces. Also does make you realize just how vulnerable you are, and the fact that you've had some sort of programming from being very young. You're trying to just develop a routine that gets you out of that ritualistic mindset and into a much more powerful mindset. So it's a very beautiful energy. Cancers. I believe that this has a lot to do with you with as far as expansion. You're pushing your boundaries. Your belief systems are expanding, and along with that, every time that we do that we change our mindsets and our rituals and our routines. So many of us are having to face the fact that some of the rituals and the routines that we have doesn't actually support expansive behavior, doesn't actually support expansion. That's difficult, because you want to expand, you want to reach your potential, you want all of these things, but you have a limiting mindset. So you're trying to balance the difference between those. Leos. This is about transformation for you. This is about really changing things up. You really want to move forward. This is about the dream of something bigger and better. You have this mindset that you could just do anything in this energy. But you have to balance it with staying true to what you deeply desire. What do you value? What do you hope to gain out of making these changes that you're making, these drastic changes? I mean, what do you want? What's the vulnerability? What's the ramifications? What will it really take from you? You really have to, Virgo is the realistic energy. Pisces is the dreamy energy. Come on. It's like, yes, it's great to be all this, gung-ho, but day to day, these are the duties, these are the responsibilities, these are the tasks that lead up to this dream. You've got to balance all that energy. Virgo, this energy is all about relationships for you. This actually Venus will deal with relationships with you. More importantly, it's going to deal with your relationship, more importantly, with yourself. I believe that this has a lot to do with how you see yourselves, how others see you in a relationship. Looking into the eyes of others is going to reveal a lot about how they view you. And I believe that many of you have an unrealistic mindset of what you think you are like in a relationship versus the way that others are currently viewing you. There's a meeting in the middle. I'm not saying this is extreme or bad, because it's just an opposition, but I'm saying that there's something that you see about yourself that others don't see, or a potential, or you see this wonderful dreamy mindset. Either you have that dreamy mindset about a partner, or you see yourself a certain way that others don't view you. So you're going to be balancing that out. Libras, I believe that for some of you, this is just all about, because this is, of course, your ruler. This is about to me, this has a lot to do with the way that you seek balance. You seek balance mentally. I believe that there is something that, to me, that's askew. I believe that you idealize things so much that the reality is there's a mental consequence for an action that you're taking. So many of you can make a commitment to something, and you'll idealize it before you'll realistically analyze what it takes from you. I believe many of you, what you're doing is you're critical in your mind of everything you could have did different, but when it comes down to it, you want the pretty picture. So I think there's that merging of the reality check of the consequence versus this is exactly what it's taking from me every single day. And that's hard. That's hard to balance those two, because we have to have almost a dreamy mindset to create a new outcome. But in the past, we've been habitual in a certain area. We need to be realistic about that. Hey, Atreyu, get down. Bad cat. Okay, Scorpio. This has a lot to do with the fact that I think, okay, I want you to be extremely realistic in this energy, because I believe that you want something, you're idealizing it, you want to take a risk. The risk to me is pleasure oriented, but there's this Virgo energy in opposition saying, hold up, I know you envision this dream, this wish, this hope, but what are the rituals? How do you want to attain it? Like, you don't just get it. It doesn't just magically happen. I mean, there's a process that goes into this. And I believe that many of you are going to be reassessing the way that you do things. This has a lot to do with friends, social circles, social networking, any sort of networking, joining groups, anything. You're going to be reassessing the way that how you're perceived in those groups. I also believe that this has a lot to do with the fact that you need to balance. For some of you, this has a lot to do with, you can't mix business and pleasure always with your friends. I see this causes contention in your social circle. So just be mindful of the fact that you need to set up firm boundaries, and you need to deal with the consequences of your actions. You need to think through the consequences of your actions before you start to mix those friendships with pleasure. Sagittarius, I believe, and I've been saying this for you, this is about balancing your obligations with home and family with your career, life, path, destiny. I believe that you envision something right now. I believe many of you are personally identifying with this situation. This could be an expectation you have of yourself or somebody has of you, but it's been very, very difficult for you to process this energy. I believe that you get a little bit closer to balance in this energy. If you really tune into this energy, I believe that there's some pearls to be found in between the Pisces and the Virgo energy. Capricorn, this is about a mindset. This is about changing your mindset. This is about really honestly being honest with yourself. This is about expanding your belief systems. This is about breaking you free from a regimented mindset and about opening you up to possibilities. Now, for some of you, you could have been idealizing situations. Your mind, you were fixated on something that I don't think you had really, really understood the obligation. For many of you, it could have been a commitment that you made to work that it's just taking a great deal more than I think that you initially thought as far as in your energy level. So I think it's just about balancing that all out. Aquarius, I think for you, this has a lot to do with the value you place on yourself. More importantly, how much you give versus what you get. So you want something, and so you may over obligate yourself, and then what you value, I think the consequence of that is, I think you give so much that I think initially when the ending comes, or when you don't get what you want, I believe that you feel that it's personal failure. I believe that you feel like you're not good enough. So I believe what this is asking you to do is set an expectation with your value system. And more importantly, it's to transform how you set the bar in your life. It's very difficult. This energy has been very difficult for me to give you, but I really honestly believe what this all boils down to is, first of all, realigning you with what you really should be valuing, and not so much what collectively they tell you you should value. This has to do with what you deeply value. But I think more importantly, what this also has to do with is transforming your mindset and the way that you look at your time and your dedication and your endurance to project something that you feel very creative and hopeful about. But in the end, you know, it's just staying extremely realistic about the consequences. And Pisces, finally, this has a lot to do with, for you, this is, you are looking into a looking glass and you are re-identifying yourself in a relationship. So relationships are going to be a beautiful tool in this energy. Relationships are going to demand that there's a certain level of commitment. There's a certain level of accountability. There's the day-to-day routines and rituals that you have to master. Some of you relationships may not feel like you are mastering your life altogether well, or that you are living in this dream state, or that you have a lot of scattered energy, and you would because you have a T-square going on and there's a lot of confusion. What you're just really trying to do is figure out who you want to be, how you want to be perceived, how you want to move forward with yourself. What kind of identity do you align with? It's very difficult when we're looking at the eyes of others and seeing some critical energy coming back at us to really understand what that means, because you have this people pleasing mindset. So you just want to be mindful that this is just a point of looking into the looking glass, seeing something different, the realization of that, and then sitting back and saying, okay, I see that, I feel me. There's a middle ground in between those two perceptions that I think you need to strive for. Anyhow, guys, thank you so much for watching Annette's Astrology Corner, and I look forward